Yo, what's good in the web? This your man Q back again, and I really wasn't planning. It wasn't in the cards. It just happened last week. Final Fantasy 16, the third trailer dropped, and I had to stop, drop, type it up, write it down, edit on spot. Whoa. Okay. Final Fantasy 16 just couldn't let Zelda have its own day, could it? I wasn't planning on talking about much of anything too in-depth when it came to Final Fantasy 16 until we got closer to like June-ish. I actually had some character development stuff I wanted to show off and talk about, but you know what? Here we are. It's been a minute, y'all, since I've been hyped for any Final Fantasy, damn near 20 years now. Last Final Fantasy I really was like super hyped for was Final Fantasy 13 because Tetsuya Naruma finally got his chance to the big boys, which was Final Fantasy. And then now that I think about it, before that probably was Final Fantasy 12, and that was in 06. Both I did a midnight launch for, and even 13 I bought the special edition, which happened to be my last special edition I've ever bought because it was just an art book. Y'all already know the story. Sakagachi stepped down right after Final Fantasy 10-ish, 10-2 around that time, and the debacle and the failure of Final Fantasy Spirits Within, closing the studio, yada yada yada. Y'all know the story. And Final Fantasy didn't feel like, well, Final Fantasy to me anymore. The loss of a love or romance type portion in the story, no noteworthy baddies, and I don't mean like Cindy, hey Cindy. I'm talking about like bad guys, antagonists. Shout out to the homie Arden. He was good, but I just needed more, mainly more from the game Final Fantasy 15. It's also kind of hard to believe that there's only been 3 mainline Final Fantasies since 03. 11 and 14 don't count to me because they're online, and if it was the way it was when it was back then, well, it can't be. But Final Fantasy 11 and Final Fantasy 14 would have probably been like Final Fantasy 0, which I always thought it should have been. But that's a story for another video. I said all that to say Final Fantasy 16 looks good. And a lot of things that I was talking about earlier, they're in this game. Hi, Jill. There looks like there's going to be some type of romance and or budding romance and a more cohesive story. Yeah, I said it. I should have to play Final Fantasy 13, 2, 3, 4, and a third just for all of them to collectively be a good story. And we don't even really need to get into the flat plot of Final Fantasy 12. It was beautiful, but Ash should have really been the main protagonist. Vaughn was. After 4 playthroughs, I finally was able to muster enough interest to finally beat it, and it's a little lackluster ending. I love this idea of dominance in icons and or dominance of icons. Dominance is icons. Dominance is the ones that's the characters who can use the icons. Okay. I feel so many heavy Game of Thrones, which I love, and Attack on Titan vibes also, which I love, minus the 4-year hiatus. That's just unacceptable, AOT. Every country has their own icon, and every person was kind of fighting for it, kind of like the Akatsuki and the 9-tailed Jinchuriki and the 1-tail. I like that. That gives a new whole vibe and different type of story elements that I can kind of see them balancing and fighting for power and everything. There's always something that you can pull when different nations have different powers or weapons of mass destruction. I mean, it is medieval. Can we get some kind of medieval sci-fi? Anybody? Can we have more RPGs in space? Like, anybody take some more chances? Well, we always gotta do medieval. You can use swords in space too, but okay. The sound is amazing. I mean, the sound sounds amazing. No matter what or how I can nitpick at the story, characters, and direction of the last few modern Final Fantasies, one thing I can't ever talk no about is that music is always top tier, even down to the little jingle jangles of the sound effects when you're saving the game. The orchestra for a lot of the music legit goes on tour every year, except, the year of my asthma, but nobody was going out then. I haven't talked anything about the graphics because, every Final Fantasy is top tier when it comes to them specs. My friends, my friends ostracized me in my own group chat. It's cool. It's cool though. It's cool. I sent everybody these screenshots of how Final Fantasy 16 looked just like a Skyrim, Western, Elden Ring, Souls type game. With the action and the palette, the way it's medieval and the way it looks, it's brown. It looked like it's a Western type game. Like most Final Fantasies weren't geared towards a Western audience, or even when they were, because the Final Fantasies have done really great. Matter of fact, they do better here in the States than Dragon Quest does, or AKA Dragon Warrior Quest. It was just more apparent with this new move when it came to the graphic scheme. Nobody wanted to acknowledge this point that the game looked almost identical at certain parts as these other games that, have been having massive success here in the West. But look at the game now. You can't tell me that it don't have more than a few Western features. Speaking of, to solidify my point, there was a recent fiasco with Final Fantasy and them not wanting to be called JRPGs anymore, which was always funny to me because I used to say this all the time anyway. An RPG is an RPG, even though the West games are different. They still function in the same basic sense, minus probably the battle system, and one being more linear and one being open world. That doesn't matter anymore because Yoshi P and the powers that be said 16 model is basically going to be what Final Fantasy is going to be from now moving forward. Action-based combat with an open world-ish setting. Of course, as a Final Fantasy and RPG aficionado, I'm gonna buy the game. Still no logical reason for no black folks to be in the game. Not one. Maybe I get a brother or sister on DLC, maybe not. But to be fair, there aren't any Japanese characters on the game either. Truth be told, when's the last time, it's been a minute since any of the Final Fantasy protagonists looked Asian. Pair that with Square Enix new moves to go full open world with this one and those after it in that DMC Souls type Elder Scroll Ring. That strategy might work, especially after the success of Elden Ring, all the Souls game, Tears of the Kingdom, everything is going to that model. So why wouldn't arguably the best or most known RPG franchise in the world? Also, they make Clive a heartthrob, which is going to sell at least 100K more because the thirst on the web for this dude from the ladies, let's just say,
it does live in Southern California.
The game looks good, amazing, gorgy, fantastic, chipper. I don't know what other adjectives to use. I wants it and I needs it. I love me some turn-based, but I do understand the sign of the times, and personally, I don't really care if they switch the gameplay mechanics up. What I'm really focused on is the story and the characters, and can I get some romance back in my Final Fantasies? Please, please? Where the female was actually important in a Final Fantasy, aka a la Yuna, Renoa, Aerith, Tifa. Ash was notable. Lightning was a female version of Cloud. So that ain't as good as it sounds. Square E, Yoshi, please. I don't want to see anything else from the game though. Please, no more. Unless it's a demo. And if it's a demo, then I'm cool with that. But that's all I got for you, interweb. Are y'all excited as I'm excited about Final Fantasy 16? If you're new to the channel, interweb, and you want to stay up to date with all things geek and those RPGs, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you're new to the channel, also also hit that like button. It lets YouTube know that you like the videos. I holler at y'all. And as always in the web, remember to eat, sleep, geek, repeat. I'll holler at y'all later. The longest time, I wasn't being legit or for real with myself either, because that was a part of me. And even though I was doing it in secret. And then it just hit me. And that's when it hit me. And that's when I became a geek. Finally, the sleeper has awakened. I am the prince of all geeks once again.